So thanks everyone for joining us. It's great to see some familiar faces and some new ones as well. Um, I want to welcome everyone to our member open house, where we discuss issues that we think photographers would, things that would be helpful to them. Coming up, we have a couple of good ones. Bill, do you want to list those that we have coming up?
You're ambushing me, Brian.
I am. I apologize.
So
Next month, we're talking about doing a copyright conversation with Honor, who is on here somewhere. You can see her. There she is. So that'd be great. December, we're talking about a shoot production during COVID conversation that we're still fleshing out, but that'll hopefully be interesting to everyone. And then into next year, Nadia is going to do one on using LinkedIn to help find prospective clients. And what else we got on the list, Bill?
So copyright registration, LinkedIn, those
Shoot
are the
production.
Yeah. Oh yeah, COVID. Yeah, those are the main ones.
Yeah, those are the main ones right now. So some fun stuff coming up for sure. So I wanted to welcome Greg to this. I don't know how many of you guys have met Greg Jones here. He was one of our photo editors. Very talented guy. Over the past year and a half, Greg has been a photo editor with Wonderful Machine. He also manages relationships with our member photographers. Greg is a very talented fellow, and he has a lot of opinions, which are awesome, and I really respect that. And I've definitely never met someone who can describe aesthetics like Greg can. It's something that's very like high art school that not a lot of people can understand, but I stare at him and nod my head and try to understand. So he's definitely a true champ at describing like why a red rose is pretty or not, and that sort of thing. Greg is a BFA from the Rochester Institute of Technology, as well as an MFA from the Visual Studies Workshop in Rochester. He's an accomplished artist, photographer, and has self-published books in library collections at MoMA, the Met, Yale, and a bunch of others. He was a 2020 PDM 30 nominee, and he's exhibited his work internationally and throughout the US. He currently lives in Philadelphia with his wife and his handsome dog. What kind of dog do you have, Greg?
She's a greyhound.
And she's named Indiana, after Indiana Jones. I want to try something fun here. So over the summer, we did a Wonderful Machine evening happy hour where we drank beer and did a photography quiz. And if I could try to share my screen here, Greg and Honor tied for first place. Bill won technically, but we didn't let him win because he's the boss and pays our expenses, so he couldn't win. But Greg got one question wrong. So I'm going to show everyone this question here on the screen and see if anyone can pick that out. Oh, Bill, I need your host help again now here. You got to enable the screen sharing.
Security, allow screen share. Does that work?
I'm in. Nope. Nope. Let me try this again. I'm having issues. Oh.
Greg, can you?
Greg, can you share your screen? Because this may be a new Zoom thing.
It looks like I can, yeah.
Can you just do it?
He doesn't have it. I'll just read the question. I tried to have fun with this, but now it's backfiring. Okay, the question is, in 1982, this photographer shot the album packaging for U2 album, The Joshua Tree. The band contacted him. It was a 2-week shoot. U2 was like, yo, we need these photos. And he said, I have this place. It's in California. It's called Joshua Tree National Park. We need to go. And U2 was like, we've never been. This sounds awesome. At the time, their album was going to be called The Americas. So this photographer took U2 to this national park and blew their minds, and they changed the album title to The Joshua Tree. Does anyone know the name of that photographer?
Anton Corbijn.
That's right. That's right. Good job.
Nailed
See
it.
that, Greg?
I got some homework to do.
Yeah. Good job, John. That was pretty fast. Yeah, Anton's one of my all-time heroes in
Yeah,
photography.
he's amazing.
Yeah, wonderful dude. All right, so today we're very excited to look at the work of photographers John Davidson, Nicole Frankel, and Patrick Hegney. Hegney, did I pronounce that right?
Got it.
Rhymes with Egney, I was told.
Exactly.
Awesome. So we definitely want to have everyone's input along the way. Please feel free to throw some questions in the chat, and then we'll open this up at the end too if anyone wants to yell out any questions or comments for sure. So right now I'm going to hand this over to Greg and John to get cracking.
Well, thank you, Brian. And hello, everybody. Hi, Wonderful Machine family. Thanks for tuning in. And thank you to John, Nicole, and Patrick for agreeing to be our guinea pigs for this web assessment open house. We're going to be doing short 15-minute reviews of each of your websites, which will be kind of a truncated form of our traditional web assessment service. In a normal web assessment, we usually start with a questionnaire for a photographer to fill out. So we could learn a little bit about their goals, their brand identity, their ideal clientele. And then from there, we do an in-depth evaluation of a photographer's website, looking at everything from design to functionality, galleries, organization, sequencing, editing, as well as the texts that are included on your pages. And then with that, we do a narrated screen recording for a photographer. So that's something that we send over to them to watch and review. And then we'll follow up with a 30-minute call to help to answer any other questions that might come up on the photographer's end. So we'll just kind of jump in here and start with John. I'll do a screen share here. Let me see here. Okay, here we go. John, how are you today?
Doing well, thanks, Greg. Nice to speak with you again.
Yeah, do you want to just briefly introduce yourself and talk about your work a little bit and who your kind of clientele is that you're looking to market to?
Sure. I'm based in Austin, Texas, and I made a strategic decision a few years ago to involve myself in the tech space, since here in Austin, they think of themselves as like the biggest competitor to Silicon Valley. It's the engine that's driving the economy. So and it also seems to be an area that people were not utilizing. And I think, you know, it's always called corporate photography, which I think makes it sound dull and stodgy. You know, but you can't really, you've got to put corporate in your searches because people aren't searching for tech. But I think the vibrancy of the tech world lends itself to more interesting imagery. I do a lot of portrait-based work. I work with Texas Monthly quite a lot. I do a mixture of editorial and commercial, more editorial than commercial. And I think one of the areas that I'm really looking to start moving into is more narrative-based work. You know, there's an assignment on here that I did where they wanted to, magazine hired me to go portray a summer camp. And I went there for 1.5 days, and it was just go shoot it. And it's really one of my favorite things that I've done, even though it was never published. but
Very cool. Yeah, I really loved going through your website.
Thank you.
I mean, each of you three really shoot fantastic work. And Brian, you'll have to let me know if I start talking too fast, because when I see good work, I just really get excitable and I start to go a million miles an hour. So John, you actually have a splash page,
Yeah.
which I can see if I refresh. So we can start here. You know, I love a good splash page. It makes for such a good introduction to a website. And it's a great opportunity to make a really strong first impression and really define yourself to a client in a very particular way. Something I love about your splash page is how your name appears kind of on this foil of blue sky and clouds. It almost gives your name kind of this mythical quality, like you're almost like descending from the heavens to bequest your photography gifts upon the world in a sort of way. Something I think isn't working with your splash page is, as you can see, it kind of fades into your main page without kind of any prompt. And the issue with that is you have this big block of text here, but I don't have enough time to read it. So having that text there kind of demands a certain kind of attention and time commitment from a visitor to your site. And I feel like because I can't finish reading that text, I feel like I might be missing something important, and I don't know if I have to kind of continually go back and read through all of it to really get the full experience. But as I get into your main page here, I think this is a great introduction to your work. I mean, all of these images are really beautiful. They make for a really compelling introduction and a good showcase of the diversity of your skills and your vision. Starting with your header here, I think this is very strong. I really like the font choice and the very bold kind of quality of your typeface. It's a very simple menu that you have here. It's very clear, gives a very direct sense of how to navigate through your website. And I think it gives your brand a very kind of extroverted quality with this very bold font. So your homepage offers a sort of an overview to your work, but you actually have a true overview page here, which to me creates a sort of a redundancy where I'm not exactly sure where to start. So essentially you have two pages that are performing the same function. I do like both of them. I could go either way on these, but I feel like you know, to go with either one or the other would make the navigation of the site a little more streamlined. I will go backwards through your menu. I really like this section where you lay out your COVID-19 protocols. I think this is something that I would recommend all photographers do right now. I think it's a great idea to include it so that clients have an immediate understanding that the photographer is aware of production safety issues and that they have procedures in place. And I think, you know, if I was a client, it would give me a lot of confidence in hiring you, you know, in this particular moment. You also have a blog section here, which I really enjoyed going through. I like the nice large size of the image here, and the page scrolls very cleanly. It is taking a minute to load up on my end, which I assume is an issue with my connection more than your website. You do something in your blog, which I think is a very good idea, which is that you don't include dates with your posts. You know, I think that's a smart thing for all photographers to do, mainly because it's hard for a lot of people to maintain their blogs and keep it up to date and post on a regular schedule. Whenever I come across a photographer's website and they have a blog and I see that their last post was 6 months ago or a year ago, it gives me the impression that they're not as active as they were before. And you know, that could be kind of a misnomer. Maybe they're just too busy to update their blog. But having the sense that it feels outdated might give a client kind of the wrong impression. So I think just having your content listed on here without a date is really the best way to go. one little design tweak I might recommend is that your text here runs the entire length of the page, and I feel like if you cut it to about a half the width of the page, or even a third, the text would be a little more readable. I might also suggest that with the vertical images you have here, that you might place two side by side to avoid all this empty space that occurs on either side, just for the sake of a little more balance. But aside from that, I think it's a really good section. Going through your about page here, again, I think it's very well done. I have just a couple small suggestions. The first would be maybe to put your contact information in bold, and also to put this text here, your partial client list, in bold, just to give a little visual separation and a little bit more structure to this text component. But outside of that, I think it's solid. I think your bio reads very well. You illustrate a bit of your personality and a little bit of your background. You mentioned a few clients that you've shot for, and you offer a little insight into your general philosophy of image making, which is something that I always love to see. So I think this is really strong, just a bit more formatting in the text to break it up into more digestible segments. And one little thing I could suggest would be to change the name of this partial client list to maybe a selected client list, which I think would sound a little more something. I don't have the word for it, but I feel like it would just read a little bit better if it said
Maybe a little more elegant.
Or exclusive.
Yeah, just a little more elegant. Yeah. So if we go into, we'll dig into your work a little bit. I won't go through all of these galleries as I would in a normal web assessment, but I'll go through a couple that really stood out to me. The first one is your gallery of location portraits. And yeah, here we go. Hopefully it'll all load up for me. We'll give it a little bit of a minute. So I think that this gallery is very strong. It's got a really good variety of images, a good range of kind of creative and technical capabilities. I think it also has a good volume of images. It doesn't get to a point where I feel like there's too much. Although I think, with a gallery edit, there's almost always room to tighten up an edit. Even if it's just taking out one picture or two pictures, I think there's always room to tighten things up. So actually, if I come back to the bottom here, I did have a quick comment. I really love this image with the text here, anything delivered. And I actually feel like it could be a good end image for this gallery, because that would kind of transform this text almost into a promise for clients that you offer them, that you could, pretty much meet any demand that they might have. And I think having any image with a piece of text will naturally give kind of viewers a sense of pause, because they'll have to slow down and read the words. So I think, having images with text within the flow of a sequence, you have to be careful, because it can kind of disrupt the flow a little bit. If I could just kind of go from here to here, then I have to kind of pause for a minute, and then I keep going. There's kind of a rhythmic kind of sensibility that you'll have to think about. But I think this could make it for a really good kind of capstone for this gallery.
I think so too, Greg. Can I jump in a little bit?
Of course, yeah, please do.
I used to have that image as an opener, because I liked that message, anything delivered, but I didn't feel anybody was reacting to it. So that's why I can't, in the same way that I was viewing it, and apparently you are. But I like it as an end piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I've probably visited your website, I don't know, 4 or 5 times within the past year. I always stop on this photograph. It's my absolute favorite of yours. I just love it. I love like the stoic expression on this man's face, and just the stillness of his gesture, like amid all this other visual noise. Um, I mean, just visually, there's a beautiful color contrast between the warmth of his face and the cool tones in the background that give it a great visual separation. Um, like structurally, the composition is like really beautifully composed. You've got these two strong vertical lines that create kind of the subframing for him to kind of fit into. And then like all the details of the frame too, that give it like the sense of great realism, like the price on the cash register here, the kind of the scruffy looking sticker on this tub, this out of focus foreground element that kind of places me in the perspective of like the bartender or something. Like it really brings me into the scene. And then actually something I really love is the bit of kind of visual synchronicity between these little kind of curved lines on this little sign, and then the ones on the neon here, and then from the and from the hat to the hat too. It all coheres really beautifully. It's really a tremendous image.
Thank
you. I also want to go through, and Brian, please let me know if we're running short on time for these, but I want to go through actually this work in culture, this gallery that you have, which again is filled with really marvelous work, great variety, great diversity, a lot of just fun pictures in here. There are a couple that don't fully hit with me, and I think actually these two intro pictures here, I question a little bit. This first one, which is actually kind of the picture you use on your overview gallery for this, I actually thought it was a street photograph at first, because it kind of abides by one of those subgenres of photography where there's like a figure and then a juxtaposition with like a billboard or signage or something on the street. So that was my first association with this picture. Was a street photograph, and there's nothing in it that really kind of firmly connected me with a sense of either corporate or kind of a work culture environment. And then this picture, I thought it was a band photograph for a minute.
It's my Anton Corbijn picture, right?
Yeah. So I think both pictures are really fabulous, but I think there are other images in here that could better represent the kind of the core of the work that you do in this area. I think this image is extraordinary. Actually seeing figures within a workplace like here, this one's really great, really high energy. So I think you have some better options to create a really strong first impression for what this gallery represents. But on the whole, I mean, really tremendous work all around. And then if we go to, so could you tell me a little bit about this this story that you shot?
It's actually it's a number of things together, but primarily every 5 years Texas Monthly does a 50 best barbecues in Texas, and it's really a big deal. It's their biggest selling issue, and as I say, they only do it once every 5 years. So I spent 3 or 4 days. They divided it up between, I think, 4 or 5 photographers, and we all went out. There's a couple of these that are from other assignments too, but predominantly it's from the 50 best barbecue issue.
Very cool. Yeah, here you are, kind of a capstone. I like that quite a bit. Yeah, I love this stuff. It's really fantastic. I think this is a great kind of case study in kind of mixing portraiture and still life and kind of environmental pictures and then detail images to really kind of rich dynamic culture. A couple of notes I have on it is that with your sequence, you begin here with life images, and they're all fantastic, but they kind of set me up with an expectation that the whole gallery will be kind of still life. And then, you know, once I scroll down here, it becomes a different gallery altogether. So I might recommend maybe swapping a couple of these out, maybe this one and this one, maybe pushing them a little further down the page and bringing in a portrait picture up here or a more environmental kind of portrait. I might also recommend a bit of a tighter edit where you go through pictures that show the same figure and maybe just pick the best of the 2 or 3 and do away with the others. I think this is really strong. It's a great character portrait. It shows a great sense of environment as well. Seeing the same figure here, I get into a bit of a redundancy where it starts to tell me that there's a bit of overlap in terms of what the picture actually says to me and the information that it gives to me. So I think you could edit this out and there wouldn't be anything really lost in the series as a whole. You also, I did a count earlier, and you have, I think, about 38 pictures in this group. So in general, I could see a little room to trim down. Again, maybe finding some pictures that have a bit of redundancy and just trimming them out. But on the whole, I mean, it's great stuff. Brian, how are we on time? Have we hit?
Yeah, probably good to wrap
Do we
up
have
John and move on to Nicole in a second. Yeah.
Okay. So John, did you have any kind of quick questions?
No, I like your suggestions. What I would say is that if you've been here 3 or 4 times over the last year, you've seen it evolve. And just last month, I did the Palm Springs portfolio reviews. And actually, one of the first person that I reviewed with was a consultant. And it's not somebody that I asked for, it's just somebody I was scheduled with. And she was really helpful. She just said, listen, I'm going to go through your website with you. Because I had all the, you know, the actual titles, like when you roll over it. And the menu at the top right was really small. And she said, people don't want the rollover. We want to see, you know, clearly. I made a few, the way that I had the individual images before, it was a horizontal scroll, and you would see the end of one image, then an image, and then the beginning of the next image. And she said, clear that out. You just want one image at a time. So I changed that so it's a down scroll and you just see one image.
Yeah.
She also suggested the overview page just as a you know, point of reference, the one with the, you know, that you said maybe it's a bit redundant.
This one here.
But,
yeah.
But what I would say is I made several of the adjustments that she suggested, and I immediately felt better about it. And a week later, I got an email I did a review with Bloomberg Business Week, the photo editor there, Donna Cohen, and she sent an email specifically to tell me how she likes the layout and how clean the design is and how easily it is to navigate. So I felt like that was a victory, and it was a victory really from the other person, you know, from that woman who advised me.
It's fantastic. And do you have any fun projects coming up? Do you have anything on the horizon?
Nothing really that exciting. No, I've got a couple of small like corporate things coming up. Last 3 months have been fairly solid, but it's a little quiet again now. So no, not that I'm thinking of.
Okay. Well, thanks, John. This is great.
Thank you.
Can I jump in with a quick question for John? Can you guys hear me? Hey,
Yeah.
John, it was curious that you said you do mostly editorial, but I see a lot of potential for commercial photography here. Is it mostly because you just haven't pursued it, or you don't get it, or what's your thinking about commercial assignments versus editorial?
Well, it makes me happy that you say that. I think, you know, I have mixed feelings about it because I do enjoy the editorial stuff, but we all have to make a living also, right? And I've pursued some of the commercial work, but haven't landed as much as I want to. I would say it's probably like 65-35 or 70-30, something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to pursue anything right now, but other than the portfolio reviews we're doing, right? But yeah, I would like to balance that out a little more.
Yeah, because I think your technical skills and your storytelling skills, and especially those early on the corporate projects that showed how you could do just really flattering corporate lifestyle type pictures, I think is super valuable, super sought after, and not everybody. I think you do it uncommonly well. So
Thank you.
So to the extent that you want to pursue that, I think there's a lot of opportunity there for you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks so much for showing us your work. Appreciate it.
Very much.
One thing I want to add too, and apologies, Greg, if we did this and I missed it, but on the info and contact page, are John's phone number and email address hyperlinked?
No, they're not.
So that's something we would recommend to John, especially for mobile. So, you know, someone can just click through and email you right away for there.
What's
awesome.
the format for hyperlinking the phone number for mobile?
What do you mean? Like, how do you do it?
Yeah, because I know mobile will recognize like a certain string of characters as a phone number, but I'm just not sure if you've come across a format that works best.
I don't know enough about the tech side of things to answer the question. I know that on my personal site, I did it just by Googling how to do it and putting in that HTML code. But are you saying that sometimes on mobile, you'll click it and it won't go through as an actual phone number?
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering what your experience was maybe with it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd imagine, again, I'm not sure the technical side of things, but I imagine that each, oh wait, Carrie Norton's throwing
Oh
things
yeah,
in the
cool.
chat here. Cool, there it is.
Thanks, Gary.
Awesome. So let's move on to Nicole Franco now.
Let's do it.
What's
Hey,
up,
Nicole.
Oh, we can't hear you, Nicole.
Oh, hi.
Here you are.
Sorry, I had like I said, there was the gardeners decided to come right now. So I was, yeah, thanks for having me. Hey, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourself and talk a bit about your work and what you do?
Sure. I am based out of Mexico City in LA. I'm from LA originally, but I spend the majority of my time in Mexico. I have the last almost 9 years. My work has, I guess my clients have changed a lot over the last couple of years. I went from mainly editorial to more commercial work now, and a little bit of travel, and also fine art sales. So I have edition prints that I have clients that follow me, and have some people that sell my prints in the US and in Mexico. And what more can I say? Do we just jump into that?
And so with your commercial work, yeah, what kind of clients are you looking to market to?
I guess kind of just staying along, keep like riding the wave of the type of clients that are finding me right now, which is medical, NGO, conservation. I'd like to move towards more work with wildlife and climate change.
Oh, interesting. Very cool. So yeah, so we can kind of jump in here.
And also, may I just preface that I think it's auspicious timing that you asked to do this because one, I mean, I'm sure like so many of us, I have not updated my site in so long. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're going to touch on things that I'm like, yeah, my COVID list of things to do when it comes to managing my business
Yeah.
is to work on my website, update my website. I've actually shot um, work towards the end of last year that I'm waiting on some embargoes to lift and campaigns to come out so that I can add them to my site. So, you know, that waiting game is always fun.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, this has been, you know, serendipitously a pretty good time for photographers to kind of revisit and tighten up their websites and their branding and you know, their marketing plans, just with all the downtime that has come with the industry that's slowed down.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know, yeah, so I'll bear in mind that your website is, you know, maybe a little out of date or has, you know, some areas to develop further. Um, your homepage here is interesting because you start out with this kind of slideshow of portraits of this man. Although like it immediately kind of raises a question for me of like, okay, who is this and what are the circumstances of this shoot? And it becomes, you know, because you're only showing images of him, it almost becomes like the face of your brand in a way. Or maybe it kind of weighs your brand a little too heavily, you know, in relationship to the portrait of this man, you know, and kind of speculation about who he might be. So I could recommend, you know, maybe introducing like a splash page or an overview page, or maybe having the slideshow kind of show previews of or samples of work that you have in other galleries, just to mix it up a little bit and give a potential client kind of a broader introduction into all of what you do. So looking, just kind of starting with your menu here, your logo, I feel like I like how you use the same font in this section here as you do in your menu. It kind of integrates this whole kind of section into one cohesive body. But I do feel like the text that you use for your menu maybe has a bit of a generic feel to it. And I think maybe there are some options that you could find in terms of font that could give the site more of a kind of a personal touch. I kind of associate this with almost like a default font in like Microsoft Word or something. So maybe like a sans serif or you know, you'd have to explore options. But I just kind of want to see maybe a little something different. So as I start to actually, let me begin with your about page. So I actually, you know, the about page on a website is usually like the first thing that I visit when going to a photographer's site, because it's like that immediate sense of like, okay, who is this person? What do they do? And what is their experience? I think you have a lot of really good information here. I think your bio gives a nice sense of background and experience. One recommendation I would have would be to segment your client list into kind of a different section. Right here, it's kind of merged into your bio, and it sort of gets lost on me. I kind of have to dig through the text to find it in a way. So I feel like this could be its own separate paragraph, maybe pushed down here, especially because this information right here is also biographical. So this feels like it's kind of cutting your bio in half. On your awards and honors list, I might suggest trimming it down to be a little more selective, maybe limit it to like recent awards and accolades, um, or even put this information into narrative form and wrap it into your bio is kind of your list of accomplishments. Especially when we get down here to like, 2006, 2007, where it feels like,
Right.
how relevant is that to a client to know, what you did 14 years ago? Although, since you mentioned that you do sell prints and you're kind of dabbling in the fine art realm, I think having a CV like this could be really useful for some of your website visitors. But something I see a lot of from commercial photographers who also do fine art is to have kind of a separate, kind of like a PDF CV that you can just link to. Then you click the link and that opens up as a separate page. So that's something I might recommend for you, just to kind of clean up the design and layout of this page a little bit and make it a little more kind of concise. Moving to your contact page, I think this looks good. All the information is clear, ready to go. One thing I notice is that the picture on your contact page, in relation to the picture on your about page, in relation to the picture on your home page, three very different visual identities, and I think that kind of suggests a brand that's very kind of diffuse and a little bit scattered. I would love to see a little more integration in terms of style or content in these kind of feature images to kind of cohere around more of a singular identity. Okay. But I think with your contact page, I think you have all the information you need. You don't need anything more than this. You got good links to us and Women Photograph, the associations that you're affiliated with. And I think a contact page never really needs to be any more than this. So I think that's great. We talked a little bit about your blog when we last talked.
We did.
Are you still thinking of doing away with it altogether?
I think I'm ready to just hide it right for now, just because I never use it. I mean, it served a purpose back in the day and I was pretty active on it, but it just seems, I don't know. I just feel like people are more, photographers now use their Instagram more for this kind of like purpose, or I don't know, if people are still using blog, they're doing it on a regular basis, which I am not. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny how Instagram is kind of eaten into like what a blog and also what like newsletters have traditionally been. Like Instagram has kind of eaten some of the share of both of those avenues a little bit.
right.
I mean, I think a blog can still be a really valuable space to share kind of more unique content or share updates on what you're up to, or offer kind of like bonus material. But I do think, as I mentioned during John's review, I think just taking off the dates so that it doesn't appear to be outdated could be a good way to go. I also think in terms of like this very long scrolling page, if you did want to keep this, I might suggest having kind of like an overview of like preview images for each post. That way a visitor to your website could kind of pick and choose what they're interested in checking out. Mm-hmm. And since you mentioned Instagram, I'll click into this little gallery too. So here is kind of an Instagram feed on your web page.
It's the live. Yeah, it connects to my gram.
Yeah. I always recommend that photographers just include the link to their Instagram, and you have that here. And the one big reason is that, a link to your Instagram, bringing in a client directly to your Instagram page is much more likely to convert into new followers. Or if I just click this and check out the images, I'm not so compelled to actually go to your Instagram profile. And that also, well, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it also wraps into this iPhone gallery that you have here, which is a very similar kind of mishmash of images. And I feel like having both of these, what I might consider a kind of a bonus gallery, I think maybe you would only need one or the other.
Okay.
But I want to make sure I dive into your galleries here. You have this personal section, and then this commissioned section, and then travel. With the personal, I might recommend giving it a different title, because seeing the word personal, kind of suggesting personal work, that might give me the impression that it's just work that you make for yourself and not for a broader audience. It's also not so descriptive. It doesn't give me any expectation of what the content in here actually is. All of these projects are really, really fantastic. And they are all documentary series, so I might just call this like documentary, or maybe stories, just to give that title a little more specificity and set up more an expectation for your website visitors. I think you'll also have to decide in terms of like your brand and what if this should be the first gallery that you direct your visitors to, or if you want your commission and travel work to be the first kind of point of contact. And that all depends on kind of your goals of your business and what you hope clients will know you for. Having this kind of set up as the first option sets you up as a photographer who primarily just makes work for herself, rather than maybe a professional working photographer shooting commissions for companies or taking on assignments. So one thing you could do, if the latter is the case, is to have your commission gallery be the first option here and push the personal work down. But I do like really going through these galleries. It's really great work. I really like how you introduce each one with a bit of text to introduce the project. And you do that for each of these. Gives me great context. And it really brings me into to the story that you're telling with the images. I also think that your edit and sequence is very good. I mean, you're obviously, to me, a top-notch visual storyteller. I think these stick. And I like how, as I go from one image to the next, I never really know what's coming next, but each time I click through, each picture kind of makes sense in relation to everything that I've seen already. So I think it's a very good sequence of pictures where the narrative of the story kind of unravels itself over time. So I hope everyone listening in will take a moment later to kind of go through these projects, because they really are fantastic. I do want to jump into the commissioned work a little bit. One thing that I noticed that I really like is the consistency of how you structure your projects, always kind of starting out with an intro text to give an audience context to really understand what's happening in the pictures. And you do that for all of these, except for this last one here. It's the only one that doesn't begin with an intro. So I would just suggest plugging that in there just for the sake of consistency and just kind of making sure that all your buttons are buttoned in a way. And moving into your travel work, so it wasn't clear to me, is the stuff that you just shoot on your own accord, or were these commissions that you got?
The the travel was my own. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, you were cutting out. Wait, the
Greg, I wonder if the video is
Hopefully,
the audio. Are you in the travel section now?
I am, yeah. Have I been cutting out for a while?
little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Now we're in
boy.
travel. Yeah.
Okay, great. I do love your travel work. It's a great mix of landscape and portrait, more detail-oriented images that give me a great sense of environment and place. Um, I think you could, market yourself as a travel photographer and do pretty well in this realm. And by the way, I love this picture. It's probably one of my favorites on your website. I love the structure of it. It's so like lyrical. The detail. This is a camel, right?
Yes. They're actually
Yeah.
dromedars, but they're camels.
They're what?
I think it's a dromedar. They have one hump. A camel has two.
Oh, interesting.
I think so, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. I just love looking at this picture, like the structure of the composition with this kind of awesome, like abstract form leading into the circular form, like the shape of the head here and the detail. All these strong verticals of the legs that create this beautiful rhythm. And then like this little melody of color from like the blue to the green to the red to the blue to the green is really like really awesome to me. And then there's this little tree in the background that creates kind of like this period to the image, kind of like an end point. It's really like fantastic visual grammar. Like this is stuff that I absolutely love. Yeah, and I already touched on the iPhone work. Could you give me what are your thoughts about including this kind of stuff on your website?
I mean, honestly, like I said, I'm like a pretty transparent person. So this was added a few years back, but it's like I go back and forth with it because my Instagram only as of like recent, I was like infused with like personal and work. And so it seemed kind of like convoluted. And I was once approached to shoot a travel story just with my iPhone. And then I had spoken to some other photographers who have these kind of like iPhone galleries, but this was, again, this was like a few years back. So I thought, that's really interesting. I'm going to see what that looks like. But now this does serve the same purpose as an Instagram. I just got to get my Instagram, I have to keep it. I need to separate my kind of personal or, before it was just kind of fused together. And I'm realizing now that so much more these days, editors are just going straight to your Instagram, which I'm just like, oh gosh, what did I post the other day? Like cocktails on the beach or like something.
Yeah, right. And because you include the iPhone work and the Instagram work on here, I think that's another reason why the name of the personal gallery should be modified to something different, because this stuff is the true like personal quality work that you're sharing with people.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I've also just like, I've had like identity crisis over like how I should brand myself, because I'm getting like editorial, but then I'm getting commercial, but then I'm getting travel. And then like, I just did set photography, so I'm just kind of like, who am I? Like,
yeah,
but people
yeah,
are like going to my site, and it's like, I feel like it's such a, picking the right word to label something is just like, it is like definitive. So you're just kind of like, shoot, like, I don't, it's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
it
I
hurts my brain sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tricky. I think like documentary slash commercial might be a good tagline for you.
Right.
I think that would pretty much summarize everything that you're showing on here. And I think the travel fits pretty well within kind of both categories. So,
Sure.
yeah. Any last comments or questions or anything?
Greg, I got a thought for you.
Yeah.
So Nicole, I'm seeing that you're such a strong storyteller that I'm not sure that you're doing yourself any favors by having the categories. I think it would be great to just have a list of projects. I'm not sure that sort of personal and commission and even travel really are useful separations, because I'm seeing sort of the same storyteller throughout all the projects. And I am feeling much like Greg that your iPhone and Instagram are actually making you look weaker than you are. I feel like anybody can sort of have one-off strong pictures, especially when you put a filter on them. But you are, I think, a rare talent in terms of storytelling, and I think you ought to eliminate the single pictures and just concentrate on showing the stories. And I think that, like, if you're concerned about sort of commercial versus editorial versus behind the scenes pictures that you might shoot for a production, I think that the key thing is that you're good at telling stories, and I think that every publication and every commercial client needs good storytellers, and so that's where I feel like your strength is, and that you ought to accentuate.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Should we move on to Patrick?
Yeah, I think that sounds great.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Patrick, how
What's
are
up,
you?
Patrick?
Doing good.
Right on. So do you want to introduce yourself and talk about your work?
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Patrick. And I think I'm a lot like John. I do a lot of editorial work and some commercial work. That's kind of split between the sections of my site, between what's done for a magazine and what's done for a client. And I would love to do more commercial. I've just found it like sort of frustrating to get in with ad agencies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So like for you, who are like your ideal clients or like dream clients that you hope to appeal to with your site?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question I haven't thought about at all. Rich ones?
Any.
Oh, no, I meant ones with a lot of money.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I think we're probably all in agreement there.
Sure.
Yeah, I love your work. You shoot really outstanding portraits and lifestyle work, I think. So this is your homepage here, and when I hit your homepage, I feel like I actually kind of start in the middle of things, because it jumps right into your portrait gallery, and I feel like I kind of want kind of like a proper introduction, maybe a splash page or an overview page, or maybe something that just kind of says hello to me. Like like visiting a website is like almost like going to somebody's house, and there's kind of a difference between like being greeted at the door and just having that door open for me to wander in and start going from room to room on my own accord. So I feel like some kind of intro would be really effective. But you know, going through your menu and your logo here, I like your logo a lot. I like the cleanliness of your menu, but I feel like they don't quite integrate in the way that they could.
Is it like a font thing?
Yeah, the big reason is the discrepancy in the font choices, I think, but also because you know, the logo and the text here are centered, and the menu items are left justified, but they're also not kind of lined up with the edge of the logo. So it feels a little disjointed because of that.
Okay.
So let me jump into your bio page. Here I have a couple things for you. The first would be the formatting of your text. You've got a couple missing line breaks here where I think if you just hit return here and space this down, and again right here, it could clean up the formatting just a little bit.
Sure.
And I also think that like reading through a little bit of your bio, it read to me more as kind of like a checklist of facts rather than a more kind of narrative based reading. So I feel like maybe just rewording or revisiting the way that you're just kind of presenting information in this section, you know, that's something I would recommend. I also think that, you know, I think that 1 out of every 3 photographers' websites that I visit have something in their bio about when they got their first camera.
Oh, sure.
So you are falling into a bit of a cliche here, which, you know, I would always, you know, I always tell myself that I kind of want to make a drinking game out of it, but I think it would be inappropriate to do that on the clock.
You'd get way too drunk too if it's 1 of every 3 of us.
Yeah. It would get out of hand pretty quickly. So I think when it comes to approaching a bio, you really kind of want to make it your own and try to present yourself in a way that kind of separates you from others. And you know, the number 1 rule is to avoid cliche in that regard. So I would suggest kind of a quick rewrite with your bio. But I do think it offers a lot of really good information about your background, your experience. Listing some of the clients that you shot for here is really great. This area here gets a little cluttered for me with the links and then the formatting here, so that could be cleaned up. But on the whole, I think it's good. And then a quick hit on your bio image. I like it a lot. Though the thing I always recommend to photographers, especially if they have a kind of a particular kind of core style that they normally shoot with, would be to make a bio image within the scope of their typical style, just in the sense of integrating that bio picture with the rest of their brand. And to me, it would create a sense that you're kind of fully immersed within a particular kind of photographic vision. So that's something I generally recommend, but I by no means do I think it's a firm guideline or something that you should definitely abide by, because I do think this kind of picture has a really nice kind of relatability that I think works as well. Jumping into your client list, really great clients. I feel like there's a bit of redundancy in having both the client logos and the names of the clients in here. I think you should go with one or the other. Sure. When I first hit this page, I kind of fell into a game of looking at the logos and then kind of looking back at the list to confirm that they were included in here, like not quite sure if they were the same clients or if it was a different set of information. So I would just go with one or the other. And then, maybe for the sake of a consolidation, you could also just throw that list onto your bio page. Maybe you have the logos down here or the list of clients down here, just to give me one less click I have to go through to navigate your site.
Sure.
On your contact page, something I always recommend is to do away with the contact form, especially because you already have your email and your info listed here. The form becomes a little redundant and unnecessary. And on the client side, filling out a contact form always feels much more impersonal. Like it gives me a sense that, maybe I'm not actually contacting this person, but maybe the email is going to an assistant or something. Whereas having your name here, like I feel more confident that I'm getting in touch with you directly. Contact form also doesn't give someone the opportunity to include like an attachment in an email, which a client might want to send you if they're asking you to bid for a job or something like that. So I think just having this info right here is fine. So moving into the good stuff here, your galleries. You've got a lot of great stuff in your portrait gallery. My big issue with it is that it gets to a point where it's just too much work. Like if it, I don't need to go probably any further in this to get a really kind of clear sense of what you do in your portraiture work. And so all of the rest here, like I just kind of keep going and going and going. And for me, it gets to it becomes like a game of just trying to get to the end of it all rather than really kind of looking at the particularities of each picture.
Sure.
And I think you've got probably on an earlier count I did, probably what is it, about 120 pictures in this group. So for me, I'd love to see a really aggressive edit. I'd love to see you cut this down, at least in half, if not, editing down 70% of it. I as a potential client, I really want to see the very best of what you do, like the top 10% of all the pictures that you make. I don't know if you guys are all familiar with Robert Frank's book, The Americans, a really famous photo book that was published in 1955, I believe, and it contained 83 pictures. And those 83 were edited down from more than 28,000 images that he had made over the period of 2 years. And so starting with that volume of images, I mean, hypothetically, he could have made 50 books out of that material, and they could have been really good books. But instead, he did just a hyper aggressive, tight edit and made one great book. And it was so great that we're still talking about it today, 50 years later. So that's always like the perfect case study in like just really strong, aggressive editing that I always like to share. When I get into looking at, let me get back up top here. When I get into looking at the individual images, I start to get curious about who these people are, what they do, what clients these pictures were made from. And so I'd love to see a caption that maybe gives the name of your subject and who they are, or who the client was that commissioned you to shoot these. You do have a little kind of image info tab here. When I click on it, I don't get any information that comes up for most of these. But when it does happen, I get keywords for the images rather than a proper caption. So that's something that I would recommend. And I think just having the name of the subjects of these would kind of bring me closer to the pictures and kind of get me a little more invested in the imagery. last kind of quick hit on this gallery. I think there's a more effective intro image that you could use than this one. For me, the distance between the subject and me as a viewer, there's a bit of space between there, and you have this kind of mid-ground element that accentuates that kind of perspective. And it places me in the perspective of more of a passive observer rather than a more active participant in the moment. So I think there are other pictures like, this one where the emotional engagement connects much more immediately. Even this one where there's kind of a bit more action happening. So I feel like there are some better options that you have to really kind of pull me into this gallery in a really more active way. Although I do think this picture is fantastic. Most of just about all of this stuff I think is. But in terms of like the energy level and the kind of the emotional connection that you hit on with viewers, I think some are more effective than others. Moving into your lifestyle gallery, again, tons of tremendous work in here. But again, I think maybe a little too much material. I get to, similar to the portrait gallery, it becomes a game of just trying to get to the end so I can kind of tell myself that I saw it all. But that really kind of taking the time to look at each individual picture. I would actually love to see you kind of break this up into subcategories. I think that you have enough material certainly to make a standalone kids lifestyle gallery. And I think there's enough of industry demand just for kind of kids lifestyle work that having that standalone gallery would be really effective and something that I think a lot of clients would like to see. And maybe another gallery that is general, like healthcare / business / corporate, and then maybe the general lifestyle gallery would just be like kind of more adults, this kind of thing. With each gallery consisting of maybe 25 to 30 pictures. I think that would make the experience of looking at this work a lot more digestible. And much more concise.
Okay.
And I do really love these GIFs that you have spliced in here, which do a nice job of kind of breaking up the sequence and giving me these kind of opportunities to take pause. One little thing is that all of them fall kind of on the left side of the margin on the site, so I'd love to see some just on the right side to kind of create some visual balance.
It's like a smart grid, so it would look different on my screen if my screen's a different size. I can't actually control.
Oh, I see. Oh, there's
yeah. Gonna move them around.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, in that case, yeah, I think it works nicely. Hitting your motion page. I think it all looks good. Just a similar comment on what I mentioned about your portrait galleries, that I'd love to see just a little caption info to tell me like what the client was for each of these videos, and also what your role is. Like, are you the DP? Are you just holding the camera? Like, what is your role in shooting this motion? I think that's something that clients would want to know. In your published section, I think this is solid. It makes for a great visual resume, just seeing all these tear sheets. This is a case where I think it's okay for the gallery to be a long scrolling gallery, because each time I kind of share, there's just more reinforcement that gives me a sense you've had success and that you're experienced, and that a lot of different clients have confidence in you. So I think this works great. I love your projects gallery, although I might renaming it. you've got some really kind of unique, personal kind of fine artwork in here that I think a lot of people would be interested in seeing, just to get a sense of, what your interests are, making work for yourself. Let me just plug in real quick. Okay. So a couple hits on this. I might suggest renaming the gallery from projects to maybe personal work or fine artwork, just to give me a kind of a better expectation of what the contents of this actually are. Because when I first was navigating your website and I got to this, it was like really jarring. It's like, whoa, in relation to everything that you show here, this is very different. So the project's title kind of threw me for a loop.
Sure.
I would also suggest that with any kind of fine art oriented project, I would love to see even just a short artist statement, maybe a paragraph that gives me a sense of your inspirations for the work, how you made the pictures, what kind of larger context or what kind of larger conversation you're trying to participate in making this work. If your goal is to get eyeballs on this from like gallerists or curators or publishers, seeing a good artist statement is an absolute must. And just out of curiosity, like I just have natural questions, like how did this work come about? Could you actually tell us about this paper thin project?
Basically, I need an outlet to get all my like creative art school juices out. So I always have time to do these personal projects. And I'm represented by a gallery. I do show in galleries and sell prints and all that.
Okay.
And I was kind of including it here to hopefully like round out who I am as a person and an artist, because I know the other two galleries are like very, very commercial work oriented, which is great because I like to do that stuff and we all need to do it to pay bills. But this is sort of where my passion lies, I guess. So I wanted to have a little section that could highlight that.
Yeah, it's great stuff. It's so much fun. Are these? How do you make these out of curiosity?
I make like I cut out all the little pieces of construction paper and I make like a big kitchen table sized diorama and shoot that, and then I shoot the people in the studio and just kind of put them together.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Very cool. So do you have any kind of last comments or questions about anything that we covered?
Yeah, back to one of the very first things you said, in terms of like an overview page or a splash page, to be the first thing people see. I had a splash page for quite some time. And I talked to a consultant and they were kind of like, your average website visitor might be there for 30 seconds, 60 seconds. So like, why are you wasting their time on this page? Like just show them the work, kind of like when you log on to someone's Instagram feed, like you see everything right away. I was kind of trying to streamline it. But you're saying you prefer sort of an introduction before just jumping into the work.
I do, yeah. And everyone has their own preferences. Like, what I like is it wouldn't necessarily be what another like art director or photo editor would prefer. But I do think a splash page, just a kind of a quick hitter, one image that is just like really impactful, really sharp, something that my eyes can digest really quickly, and then I hit the enter button and really dig in. If you do have one like picture or maybe two pictures that could fit on it that you think really kind of perfectly represent all of what you do, I think it could be worthwhile. But you're right that I think a lot of art directors, are very impatient in terms of just wanting to get to the guts of the website, just really seeing the best of what a photographer can do. So, again, going back to like an overview page, that's why I think an overview page is really beneficial, because it can kind of sample all the various capabilities of what a photographer can offer just in one quick scroll. And I get that all at once. So, yeah, any last thoughts?
That was it. I mean, I know I need to pare down how many images are in there because it's ridiculous. I've never actually. I applaud you for taking the time to count.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So just to add to that thought of the overview page, whether that's called overview or new work, I think it's a
Mhm.
good opportunity for that, whatever 20 images are on there to be updated often as well, or at least just rotate around so when the same people go to your site over a year's time, it's looking refreshed, it's looking new and contemporary. I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
Greg, I think you need to stop your screen sharing. I have this really
Oh,
awkward view of
sorry
my
about
face. As big as possible.
There you go.
Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrick. That was awesome looking at your work.
Thank you. Thank you guys for reviewing it.
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone has any questions or comments or thoughts for John, Nicole, or Patrick, please, this is your time to open up and give some talking. And if not, that's great as well. And yeah, if anyone has anything else to talk about, Bill, Greg, and I can certainly hang around for a little bit. Otherwise, thanks everyone for joining us on this afternoon, and please email us with thoughts of what you guys would like to see in future upcoming member open houses. That was great. It was good to see everyone here. It was a good turnout. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thanks for coming, guys. Great to see everybody.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody as well. Everybody for showing up, and of course Nicole, John, and Patrick, and Greg most of all. Maybe I'm very pleased with myself that I brought Greg into the Wonderful Machine family. I'm really impressed with that performance. Thank you, Greg. And I just want to echo what Brian said. We these member open houses are a great opportunity for us to get feedback from you guys on all the things that we're doing to support our member photographers. So I got nothing better to do for the rest of the afternoon. So if anyone does want to stick around just to bend my ear, and probably Brian can stick around as well, we'd love to, we can make whatever time for you that you want.
Great.
But otherwise, thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks. You too. Bye.